Hey folks, Todd Coburn here with your Aerospace Structure series. This video covers the syllabus for composite strength, specifically ARO4360 for Cal Poly Pomona students in aerospace. I'm going to cover the first couple pages that are unique for this class, and then I'm going to revert back to the syllabus for 3261. Which is basically the same except for the earlier stuff that I'm going to cover. So stand by. Let's take a look how it works. So this is the syllabus, the first page of the syllabus for composites. And you'll notice here that this first page is the key to mastering this class, or at least the first key. This covers all the information, all the topics that we're going to cover, as well as the chapters from our handbook that each section will cover. I'm also going to be adding content as we go and modifying content as we go to make it the class as good as possible, to incorporate some of the changes I've made in my book, and also to refine some of the more advanced topics that I would like you guys to be exposed to. But basically what you're going to want to do is print this page out and have it with you every time in class. A good way to do this is to have one of those like notebooks that have like a clear front. We can slip a piece of paper in, slip this in, have it with you in class along with your text. And that's a good way to stay appraised of exactly what we're going to cover on every single lecture. It shows every test and my grading scale and everything else that I expect. We're going to go on to the next page. And you've got your own little welcome here, and along with the instructor information, you'll look down here and you'll see our text, which is shown here. You can access more information about the text on Canvas, where I have a little blurb and the important course information talking about the different ways to get the text. There are also some supplementary texts, and I refer to those in my videos. There's book reviews for those if you want to pick up a little additional help. Then some of those books can help. You're also going to want a very good engineering calculator, one with matrix capability, the ability to take the inverse of a matrix and to solve simultaneous equations. We're going to be doing this throughout the class, as we do also in finite elements. And while you should have learned methods for doing that in your linear algebra class, my goal for this class is not to reteach those things or to grade you overly on that capability. I'm going to expect you to be able to do that, and the way I expect you to do it is using your calculator. That way you can focus on learning the wonderful techniques that we're going to unlock for evaluating composite materials and structures. So get yourself a good calculator and that will really help. The rest of the information, I'm going to revert over to the ARO4361 page, the corresponding page, and I'm going to go through the rest of the helps and comments with that one. The next page gives a little welcome, talks about me and how to contact me, and has our basic course information. This syllabus talks about face-to-face. That's how this class will run. But because outside events have caused us to go online a few times, it also addresses what happens if we go online. Okay? This next page goes through my expectations for lectures, attendance, quizzes, and tests. You're going to want to read that carefully. There are things that I'm very a little bit rigid on, like things like not getting out of your seat during a quiz or test without permission unless you're done. Things like losing credit for homework, quizzes, and tests that you don't appear for. If you miss any of those, you're going to get 20% off. Whatever that was worth, minus 20%. This is to differentiate folks who are struggling to learn the material and haven't yet from those who are irresponsible and don't follow through on their commitments. So this is an important piece to follow through on everything you sign up to do. If you're signed up in my class, either drop it or be there and turn everything in. This is an important life skill, and these points reflect that. Also, email communications. I expect each email about this class to have the email in the subject, the class number in the subject line, and this talks about that so that I can recognize which class this is for and deal with this information precisely. I'm going to encourage you to come to my office hours, though, if you have any questions, or if you're industry professional, you have questions, I recommend just putting comments right on the videos themselves, and I will do my best to respond. Students are welcome to do that too. This talks about academic integrity, including Discord use, and this talks about online test procedures and expectations. You could ignore this unless we go online, and then you're going to need to read this carefully. One thing that's different about my class from others is I expect students to grade their own homework. I give the homework, I have the answers to the homework, and I have this rubric which tells you how to grade your own homework. I reserve the right, obviously, to change your grade based on my perception of what you did, but this way you can get credit for doing the work, and the first piece of that is doing the work in an appropriate manner and then claiming credit for it. And this will talk about how that's done. Basically, in a nutshell, it's if you do every problem and you get them, you match my answers, that's going to be 5 points per problem. So a 10 problem homework will be worth 100 points. And the way that will be scored is points that you've scored that you're claiming over the points possible circled. And then there's a little thing for extra credit. We'll talk about that in a moment. This here talks about extra credit. I give a lot of extra credit in my class, and this talks about how you can claim it. Some of the credit I will award for you, and others I will blurt out. Like, let's say we're in class, you say something clever or something insightful, or you catch one of my mistakes, I'm liable to say, hey, +1 extra credit. That is offering you extra credit that you then have to claim. The way you claim that, that's called in-class extra credit. The way you'll claim it, let's say this is lecture 5 when this occurs, then on homework number 5, you will claim the extra credit, and this talks about how to do that. Okay, we'll talk about that briefly when we look at the homework in just a minute. In fact, I think we'll switch over there now. So this is an example homework problem or set from statics, my statics class. This is actually the first 2 problems, but let's just imagine that this statics test, this statics homework only has 2 problems. If that were the case, then my rubric says these are worth 5 points apiece. So that means the total homework is worth 10 points. If you did both problems and answered and solved, got the same answers that I did, that I claimed are the answers, then you would score your points, 10 points, over the possible points, 10 points. You would circle that. That is how you score it, up near the top of your page in a different color ink than what you did the homework in, preferably red. Okay, that's how you claim credit. Then, if there's extra credit, you will claim that off to the right. You're not going to include that in the total. So let's say that in class on the lecture number 1, I gave you, told you got 2 extra credit points, then you'd claim +2 ICXC for in-class extra credit. If I also go over, so I have high expectations of students, I drive myself, and I try to drive my students to greatness also. If I am late to class, which almost never happens, or if I take class over, which often happens, then I give extra credit. Just like if you're late to class, you're liable to miss a quiz, which is going to result in lost points. If I am late to a class, I'm going to give you points for that. And if I take a class over beyond the scheduled time, I will give you points for that. Let's say I take class over by 4 minutes. In that case, you can't just claim that, but if I at the end of class announce, hey, it looks like we're 4 minutes over, therefore you can all claim 4 OTXC on this homework. That means for homework 1, if I took you 4 minutes over, you would then write +4 OTXC for that. You can't claim that on a different homework. If you forgot to claim it for lecture 1's homework, that means you've lost those potential free points. Has to be on the homework where the in-class or the OT was assigned. One other caveat, so my grading procedure is not intended to cause stress. You're going to have to read it carefully and carefully grade the first time, but what it's intended to do is give you a license to take responsibility for your own work in a way that I can check it. if you, let's say that you get a different answer, let's say your speed was 9.64 and you think that your answer is correct. Let's say you believe that I made some mistake, or let's say you believe that there's some kind of issue with something and you think your answer is good enough. Now normally you can't claim full credit if you don't match my answer. But if there's some reason you feel like your answer is correct, you're free to claim those points. Don't sweat over it. However, I expect you to be clear. So that means if you claimed credit for part B, you would put a little note in your red right next to it. I think this is close enough. You would also put a note up there right by the extra credit. Just beneath that, you'll say, see problem 1B. And that's all you need to say, with a little note by the problem where you claimed credit for why you claimed that credit. And then you can give yourself the benefit of the doubt. If I take a look and disagree, I may remove those points, but I won't give you any punitive scoring. But if you claim credit for something that doesn't match my answer and you don't have any kind of note flagging that, then I will provide punitive points, which means I could take off the points for the problem, take off the points for more problems, or even zero out the entire homework if I feel you were not following the process. So the important thing to remove stress is to feel free to use your judgment, but make sure you communicate with me that you're using your judgment, and then you'll never get punitive points taken off, because we're communicating and you're moving forward, you're racing forward, not waiting for me to answer something, but you're doing it in a clear and transparent fashion. That's what I expect, and that will take you a long ways in life. So that's how homework is graded, okay? Every homework, you're going to grade it. If you don't grade your homework, I'm liable to just zero the homework. Or sometimes what I will do is just give you like 2 points for every problem that appears like it was solved and grade you that way. But just expect if you don't grade your homework, I'm not going to either. It's going to be a 0. So make sure once you complete your homework, you carefully go through and grade it the way it's supposed to be graded. First few times, it'll probably take you a little bit of time to do this. After you've done a couple of these, it will become very easy and quick to do this. That's the intent, okay? That's how we do with our extra credit and our homework grading. This talked about how that grading is done. This talks about how the extra credit is claimed. This talks about some resources the university has, as well as DRC students, my expectations. I would prefer to take care of that myself rather than have the DRC do that. And this invites you to see me if you qualify for this, and allow me to help administer your accommodations. And then concluding remarks. So that completes our syllabus review. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it makes clear some of the information. You're going to want to read that syllabus carefully. Make sure you understand everything that's in it. Looking forward to seeing you in class.